A warning, the neighborhood we're about to take you to is infested with crackheads.
Suddenly, he fires his gun, shooting the 48-year-old clerk in the back.
4:10 o'clock Friday morning, a tipster found the bodies of two males in an unkept field near City Airport. The victims were on their knees, face down.
Young woman's life is cut short, and tonight police say an even younger life, a 12-year-old boy, is to blame for her murder.
A quote from a gentleman at CNN. Actually, it was a quote from a script, an old movie script by the name of RoboCop. And that is, there was something inscribed at the top of that script, and it read, "The future left Detroit behind." I will tell you that the stark contrast between RoboCop, the movie, and the current state of Detroit is eerie. Hello, I'm Guy Boudreaux, and welcome back to the Guy Boudreaux Radio Show. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope you continue to join us every Sunday at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today's show is about a gentleman by the name of Raphael Johnson. And Raphael Johnson is the founder of a group called the Detroit 300. And the Detroit 300 was some say a vigilante group that was put in place to do what local law enforcement in the Detroit area couldn't do. So when you get into this show with Raphael and you hear Raphael Johnson articulate the current state of Detroit, Michigan, I think your jaw will drop. You might even think that Detroit, Michigan is not within the United States, but within some small third world country. So I think it'll be a great show. Again, thanks for tuning into the Guy Boudreaux Radio Show. This is Anything and Everything. Stop by our Facebook page and like us at the Guy Boudreaux Radio Show. Also, tweet us at the Guy Boudreaux Radio Show. Let's bring Raphael Johnson in. And Raphael, where are you from?
I am from Detroit.
And I have to ask the question, what keeps you in Detroit, Michigan?
That's a good question. Well, number one, my family is here. And although I'm grown and have my own family, I believe, initially I wanted to stay here and help this city out and give back. It was my way of giving back. I once witnessed it thriving, and, little did I know when I was younger that it was already on a decline. But, more so it was a penance to stay here for me. A penance meaning, I was responsible for taking the life of an innocent man when I was 17 years old. And
wow.
That state of ignorance, so it's my way of challenging some of the thinking distortions that are probably, it's all around the country, but it's just so prevalent here in the city of Detroit. So me staying here is my way of saying, I'm going to give back. I'm going to challenge those thinking errors that are so prevalent in this city and that I once was a part of. That's why I stay here.
So, Raphael, how has the amount of political corruption affected public safety?
Okay, so the city is allotted $3.6 billion a year. And out of the to run that's his budget. So out of the $3.6 billion, about 2/3 of that go directly to contractors. And it just so happens that the biggest contractors in the city are probably the five most wealthiest families, affiliated with the five most wealthiest families here in the greater Detroit area. So you have about 1/3 of the $3.6 billion that's remaining each year to go out to city services, which have been poor, police and fire, which are understaffed. There once was about 7,000 officers in the city of Detroit. They're down to like 1,500. A third of the 140 square miles in the city of Detroit is vacant, abandoned. So you heard about Devil's Night. You're familiar with that. That got national attention because here in the city of Detroit, we like to burn up property the day before Halloween. So you have a lot of burned out property, burned out businesses. There was the introduction of white flight in the city of Detroit after the '67 riots. Once whites moved, and then business got bad for the big three. So the big three started moving their companies outside of the Detroit area. So now what once used to be a major Suddenly, when people didn't have to go to college, you didn't have to finish high school really. You just work on the line, make enough money to buy you a home, buy you a Cadillac, and education was never a factor. As long as you can put this nut over here, as long as you can pull this chain down and move this wheel over there, and there was no real skills except, just the vocational, technical. But there was no real education. So now the plants are gone, so there's no jobs, and the morale of the city is going down. Now, with the third of that $3.6 billion, it's basically what's left. It's the crumbs. So a lot of politicians, as you see, we probably have more politicians that have been caught up in the government and FBI's net of corruption. We have more politicians that go to prison probably in any other city in the entire country. And there's a known paid to play scheme here in the city of Detroit. It always has existed, always. And it doesn't matter whether you're black or white, but when black folks have done it, all of a sudden they're going to jail. So there's a big pay to play schism here in the city of Detroit. There is a lot of nepotism, a lot of cronyism, a lot of favoritism, and the morale of the people is low. And firefighters is low. They don't have the equipment. EMS doesn't have the equipment necessary to save lives. So when you do your research about Detroit, EMSs are not even coming to places and people are dying. You look that up, you'll find a wealth of information. Detroit police are outgunned. They're outnumbered. There are certain areas in the 140 square miles of the city that they don't even go into. You would never find a cop car on Max Service Drive. There was, before the projects were torn down, the police never went into the project. Never. I mean, there's just certain areas in this city that you would not see a cop car. And when you got a city that once had nearly 2 million people and is down to 750,000, so now you have an infrastructure for 2 million people, but you don't have 2 million people. So now they're talking about cutting certain areas off. The garbage is not being picked up. Bulk trash is not being picked up. Snow is not being removed. Salt is only put down in the downtown Detroit area, because that is where Tiger Stadium, the Detroit Lions, you have a lot of customers that come through downtown Detroit that come from the suburbs. So Detroit, the safest place now is in, the downtown area near the attractions, such as the Hart Plaza, such as Ford Field, such as Comerica Park. Those areas are pretty much safe. But when you branch out, Detroit is built like a wheel. It burned up in the 1700s, and they rebuilt it from the area now known as Campus Marshes. And from that area, which is about maybe 200 yards from the Detroit River, it branched out going north, east, and west. And it's like if you can picture a wheel, and the hub of that wheel would be Campus Marsh, or what is now known as Campus Marshes, right near where the Joe Louis Fifth is. It branches out into several main veins for the city of Detroit that literally take you into the suburbs. Michigan Avenue, Jefferson Avenue, Grand River, and Gratiot. Those are the four prongs that take you outside of the city, if you picture a wheel, until, to the greater Detroit area in the suburbs. So the infrastructure is old in the city of Detroit, antiquated piping systems. They built the piping system to last for 100 years. People talk about, you got 80,000 vacant homes and abandoned buildings, more than any other city in the entire country. We have 17,000 registered homeless people. I say registered because we got a whole lot that are not registered. But even with the 17,000 registered homeless people, it's more in this city than any other city in the entire country, including New York, including Chicago, and the bigger cities. We have number one in home foreclosures. So people can't buy. And also properties being burned up. So people can't sell their property. They can't sell their home. They can't lease it. They can't trade it. They can't do nothing with it. So they pay somebody $50 to go burn up this property so I can collect the insurance on it. So we got a lot of that. The banks, they can't sell. So they take the same initiative. We'll burn it up, collect the insurance money. So you got a lot of burned out businesses, burned out homes. Landlords have walked away and burned up their property to collect the money. Hell, if I can't rent this, I can't find adequate tenants to live in my property, crime is on the rise, hell, I'll burn it up. I'll take the chance to burn it up and collect an insurance money. And that's what you have a lot of that in the city of Detroit. We have we're number one in young men, particularly African-American males, that do not graduate from school. What's so unique about the city of Detroit when you talk about crime is that although Chicago beat us out by a few deaths, and we were number 2 in murders last year next to Chicago, what's so unique about Detroit is that there's no other city in the entire country where children are dying like they are in the city of Detroit. When I talk about children, I'm talking about babies, 9 months old, 3 years old, 2 years old, from gun violence. So, yeah, there's a lot of shooting in Chicago. Most of it's teenage, young people in their 20s, but never in no other city where you find 9-month-old babies being shot with AK-47. You don't have that. I'm talking about continuously. I'm not talking about one incident, continuously. So that's what makes Detroit unique from my travels and my studies and me having my boots on the ground, is that babies die, fathers don't stand up, fathers are not there. You know, it's just the family is divided, and you're dealing with 56% of the population is illiterate, which means they can't comprehend what they can read or write, if they can read or write. I'm not 56, 48%, I'm sorry. 48% of the population in the city of Detroit is considered to be illiterate. They just recently, I think it was a Rob report of Forbes magazine, somebody said Detroit is the most miserable place to live. And they based that on the fact that there are no jobs. No jobs, there's no money. No money, people resort to crime. And what attractions will people want to come to Detroit for? We just recently, the government here had to pass up on a bid to host the Olympics in 10 years. To pass up a bid because we don't have the $10 million that's necessary to put up front in order to begin the process of it. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the money. That takes money. That takes millions. And guess what? The city of Detroit do not have it. You got a lot of dynamics, man. You have a no snitch culture. So, that's very, very heavy. So people die and people know and people don't say anything. They feel they don't trust the police. Detroit has a history, if you look this up, of police killing unarmed citizens. Or he had a brush in his pocket and I shot him 12 times. He had a rake in his hand. I mean, all these are real. When you go back and play this tape, you look it up. You correlate what I'm saying to a Google search. It's notorious for officers, busting drug dealers and taking their money and pocketing it. Man. I mean, the entry pay for an officer in the city of Detroit is $22,000 to put your life on the line, put a bulletproof vest on, and carry a Glock 40 and go save the city for $22,000. 2-2. That's the entry level for every officer in the city of Detroit. So the rank and file, I mean, you have poor leadership. So the rank and file don't listen to the brass. They're like, screw this, man. I can't get a raise. I can't get a promotion. Officers are dying, being killed.
So tell me about the group you started, the Detroit 300. What was the tipping point? What made you think that something like this needed to take place? Typically, in a city like Detroit, it's a dangerous place out there. It'll make the hood in L.A. look like Disneyland. So what was the tipping point for you to say, I'm going to take a stand and I'm going to get my fellow brothers and fellow citizens to put their lives on the line? What is there? Was there one particular incident that said enough is enough?
Well, here's the thing. I started doing that, about 50 or so of my friends, very small group, relatively small, if you will. Some people think 50 is a lot, but we started off. They're definitely small compared to what we end up with. But we started off. We wanted men to stand up. Man, my grandmother, when I was incarcerated as a teenager, my grandmother couldn't even put out her trash. That's how bad the neighborhood got. The young men wouldn't listen, and she was afraid that they would break in on her. New people move. My friends end up dying or getting locked up themselves. And so I mentioned that because the culture is very critical here in the city of Detroit. And so what led me was like, my grandmother would have loved to be able to, be safe. How can one person, 5'6", 167 pounds with a gun, go around raping girls, terrorize the whole city? Are you serious? This is one man. One man. So my thing was, okay, men need to stand up. So we started doing that, and I think we caught it. The first serial rapist, his name was Glenn Anthony. We caught him. He raped 5 young girls on the east side of Detroit. We caught the young guy who shot a little girl in the head. So we were doing this already. And then one day, in the summer of 2010, a 90-year-old grandmother had her house broken into. And she was raped. She was beaten. She had her house ransacked. And she was pinned against the bed and left to die. Come to find out, a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 15-year-old were the ones that did it. So as a man, how can you have little boys terrorize your neighborhood, our elders, our seniors, and you not saying nothing about it? You don't do anything. So we called out, me and my friends from the radio, we called out 300 men. And 346 showed up. And from that moment, a whole new movement was born. And I ended up having 5,000 members. I was the president. 5,000 volunteers. No one got paid. No one got a stipend. But everybody was concerned about taking back our streets. So our motto was to take back our streets and protect all women, children, and senior citizens, and go after individuals who commit crimes against them. And that is you can never get rid of drugs. Drugs have been here long before you and I were ever born. You cannot stop prostitution. Women going to sell their ass, guys going to buy it. You can't stop none of that. But even when those things are prevalent, never have we, in the annals of social history, just committed crimes against babies and committed crimes against our elders. It used to be a time you walk down the street, you and your friend, you're cussing, and y'all just using cuss words, and the grandma walk past, you say, "Excuse me," you stop it. "I'm sorry, ma'am." It's not that kind of life no more. The culture has changed, and I'm against it. I'm a total dissident to what I see, and so that was the birth of the Detroit 300. And it started with 300 men. And on top of that, I love the movie The 300. I've read the Bible a couple times, so I know about the 300 Gideons in the Bible. But I love the 300 and what they stood for. Those Spartan men, and they were willing to die so that their culture and their world would be much better. They were willing to die to be free. And it set off a movement for the Spartans, according to the legend, and they end up thriving. And so that was a part of why we went out strong, man, real strong. And then when I read, I have a law degree, legal administration. My master's is in liberal studies, but so I'm real studious when it comes to the law. And I came across a law in Michigan that's been on the books since the 1920s, where Michigan citizens can perform what is called a citizen's arrest. a private person's arrest. Not only can we arrest someone when we see a crime, but we don't even have to see it. We can hear about it. You can be called upon by a peace officer or a police officer to come and help him or her make an arrest. And that's like that law has been kept hidden and quiet for 80-something years, man, 90 years. No one has ever used it. So I gave it birth. I rebirthed it. I resurrected it and said, hey, look, the legislative body said that we can go after individuals who commit crimes. And guess what? We don't even have to see it. Only thing that has to have happened is a crime must have taken place. And then I dig deeper into the law and find out not only can we arrest somebody, but there's room in there. We can literally kick their ass. You robbing a grandma. It's not just about holding you. We're gonna kick your ass and hold you and wait for the police to come. And the law says we don't even have to wait for the police to come. We can take you down to court ourselves and press charges and prosecute you. And so no one is there. All the legal minds and the professors and this and that and people who give seminars and workshops, no one ever talked about that. So here it is, this black guy, this young fiery guy, comes in and tells them, you have a right to arrest. So we're like, if you don't have a crime, if you can pass a background check, if you can pass a mental exam, guess what? You can also open carry a gun. Wow. Mr. Open carry. So not only can you open carry, you can open carry, and you have a right to perform a private person's arrest. And the politicians that I knew, they hated. The sheriff didn't like that. The chief of police, they didn't like me saying that. Because they're saying, hey, he can be armed and dangerous, stay back. But that ain't what the law says. The law says if you commit a crime and you see it or you hear about it, you can go arrest him. Mm-hmm. And also the law says that you can carry a gun. So technically, the people in the state of Michigan have arresting powers and have the power to carry firearms.
What is the condition of the policeman's guild, if there is a policeman's guild? Because I know personally, certain areas of the country have a certain police guild that, they can, for lack of a better way of putting it, be a pain in the ass to work with, or they have probably too much control or too much power. So what is the condition of the policeman's guild?
You might as well say that doesn't even exist in the city of Detroit. Yeah, I mean, they have a union, but guess what? Look up online and see what's going on with the leaders of the union of the Detroit Police Officers Association, the DPOA. They've been indicted, man. Mayor's been indicted. City council's been indicted. State representatives have been indicted. Pension board has been indicted. The leaders of the police officers union, which is like the guild, have been indicted. Come on, man. What are you talking about? This is Detroit.
These individuals running for office, are they, through lineage, are they handed down a political slot? Is that, how does Detroit keep screwing up the political environment in regards to, one, the mayor, and certain individuals that are, placed in certain departments within the city that end up falling prey to bribery and other ancillary forms of breaking the law?
Yeah, you have, and that started in the Coleman Young era. That there's a lot of racism in Detroit, and it's always been that way. A good book to read. And it gives you, you're not going to be able to read all of it. Well, you may be. I don't know what kind of, are you an avid reader or not. But a good book that gives you a very clear, detailed understanding about the social dynamics of the city of Detroit is by Thomas, book about, what's the name of the book? God. So it's at my office. But if you look it up, Thomas Segru, a book about the city of Detroit, Thomas Segru. And it will give you pictures. It will give you an understanding of why the racism exists and has always existed since the 1940 riots, since the 1967 riots. It always has existed in the city of Detroit. And Detroit is separated by different boundaries. You'll read about 8 Mile. You heard Eminem talk about 8 Mile. 8 Mile is literally the dividing line between Detroit and the suburb called Oakland County. Detroit is in Wayne County. And the 8 Mile separates it from what is called Oakland County. Oakland County is the richest county in the entire country. So even if you are in Beverly Hills, it has nothing on Oakland County. Oakland County, Michigan is the richest county in the entire country.
So what was the demise of the Detroit 300?
Internal strife. I was told that the FBI infiltrated the Detroit 300, and around the time that was told to me that they allegedly infiltrated, we started having a lot of internal strife, guys pulling guns on each other, a lot of people, taking advantage of the public's trust, such as kicking in the crack house, taking the crack man's guns, and getting caught and saying, oh, I'm doing this for the Detroit 300, or kicking in the heroin spot, getting high, getting caught, and flashing Detroit 300 badges saying, I'm with Raphael Johnson and the Detroit 300. And having police officer friends of mine call me and say, hey, man, your guy's over here smoking crack or high. And they saying that you sent them over here. So it was it was a good thing, but it just grew out of control.
And your best friend was murdered, correct?
Yeah, one of my best friends, since we were teenagers, I brought him on to the Detroit 300. And right around the time, there was a lot of jealousy. Why would I put him in leadership? He ain't been around. He not original Detroit 300. So there's a lot of flack. And he ended up getting killed. And, that really, really hurt me. That really hurt me a lot. He left 6 children by his wife. And so, that was the tipping of the ice, the tipping for me, the tipping point.
So do you think that his murder was due to his involvement in the Detroit 300?
I have some suspicions. I don't want to put it on record right now.
I got to tell you, Raphael, man, you got a big pair of balls on you, brother, because what you were able to accomplish, it's unheard of. I mean, when you can be on my squad any day of the week, brother, any day of the week. I mean, you've got guts.
You can call me anytime, guys.
And to our listeners out there, I would like to say thank you for listening to the Guy Boudreaux Show, Anything and Everything. Like us on our Facebook page at the Guy Boudreaux Radio Show. You have a blessed evening. Make it a great week. I'm Guy Boudreaux. This is Anything and Everything. Have a great night.
Well, if I asked you just one question, why do you walk these streets alone? Yeah, you learned so many lessons. Why won't you just go on home? I know things were never easy. You'd pretend you didn't care. But all this casual indifference always be our cross to bear. Oh, remember that day last November? The snow was falling to the ground. You met the man with a hurricane now. Well, I asked if you'd work for him downtown. Oh, tell me, what you gonna do when it all comes crashing down? What you gonna do? What you gonna say, yeah, girl? What you gonna do when it all comes crumbling down? Where you gonna go? Are you gonna stay? A girl got to keep on trying, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Oh, you never felt like you were so safe. Well, Johnny ain't just pistol at his hip. Half them days turn into months, baby. Johnny ain't really tighten up that grip. Oh, no, now you live above that pawn shop. Your man got popped and sent to jail. Every extra cent that you earn, don't you know what goes to making Johnny's bill? Ah, that's right. Oh, what you gonna do when it all comes